All right, we're back for week one of fantasy football preview. And look at this, we're starting. I know this is going to be posted later, but just so everyone knows and we can say it, we are starting at 7 o'clock. When we
Let the
start, we're
record
going to
show.
start at 7 o'clock. We didn't have to wait for anyone. No one's computers wouldn't work. No one's headphones were missing. No one was just late and needed to be a diva and push the time back. I'm pretty sure all of that applies to you, Max. I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
if to anyone.
How dare you?
And to people watching, that information is completely irrelevant.
It is, but so no, but it's good for us, and we're all here and ready to run, and we have a completely reformatted show this year. Last year it was just us sort of going through our own teams and talking about who we would start, who we were looking at on the waiver wire, and all that sort of mumble jumble. But we figured no one cared about our teams; they care about their teams, and they want to hear what's good for them and sort of what they should be paying attention to. So that's what we're going to try to do, and the other thing is to keep the time below 3 hours, so it's actually sit through this and get through it quick. So to do that, that means I have to stop talking and get to the show. So the way we're going to do this, we have a couple of items that we're going to run through at the top of the show, just talk about some headlines around the NFL, things that are going on that definitely impact fantasy. So to start that, guys, I tagged 3 headlines that I sent you today, and I just thought we could run through them. The biggest of which definitely applies to the Denver Broncos and Wes Welker receiving a 4-game ban for PED use, Molly, whatever he wants to call it, or whatever they're calling it. People saying it was that, or methane, whatever you want to call it. So Welker is gone for the first 4 games of the season. That makes a huge impact for the Broncos. Anyone have any comments on that?
I would say that, well, what I would say was that you shouldn't have drafted Wes Welker in the first place, because just before that there was kind of, well, fantasy controversy swirling around him, because people didn't know if he was even going to play again, because this is his 3rd concussion in the last year that he received in preseason. So if you did draft him, I'm sorry. Well, now the choice is easy. You just bench him for the first 4 weeks and see how he is on week 5. But
I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like, you're still going to draft Wes Welker. It's still Wes Welker. I mean,
no, I stayed far away from him in the draft. I had
the
opportunity.
16th round, whenever you're picking up a kicker, you're not going to choose Wes Welker. He's still available just for the chance that he does. I mean, he had a productive year last year. Yeah, I understand he was scrambled eggs this year, but like, I mean, it's still Wes Welker. I mean, I was sitting there looking at him. I think he went in like the 7th round of our draft. And I'm just like, well, if he's not picked up, I'm going to draft him.
What does that tell you, Seth, that he was sitting there in the 7th round?
Right.
I think that the hate on Wes Welker, or like the fear of him not playing, I mean, look at other people who went in that round, or even later than that. I mean, I pick up a backup running back to the Kansas City Chiefs or Wes Welker. Which are you going to pick? So
Yeah, it's all about value. But, I mean, he's reaching Austin Collie levels of concussions, and
Yeah, you don't want that blood in your hands. If you own him, you're part of the problem.
On the flip side of things, not talking about Welker's career ending, but a different take first. This could actually be good for him. It gives him, he's not going to look at it this way, but it gives him 4 weeks to sit on the sideline and not get hit and suffer a concussion.
yeah.
But in terms of the rest of the team, I mean, you now you're looking at guys like, obviously Demaryius Thomas was a top option for them anyway. But now you're looking at guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Andre Caldwell, who Sanders is probably going to slide into the slot and fill that slot role while Welker's out. So it brings someone like Caldwell up to the other side of the field. So it has an impact down the line, him missing those first 4 games.
I would say yes and no. The problem is, I think with Emmanuel Sanders, you're either in or out on him already. I don't think this news moves the needle that much for him, because I think he sucks, this doesn't change anything for me.
Well, you're taking some bitterness there, but that's okay.
I watched him play. He's not good.
But that's all right. Well, he didn't have Peyton Manning throwing to him.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
see how good Eric Decker is this year.
I think he'll be good.
Eric Decker.
He's not as good as Decker.
Let's see. Yeah.
Peyton can make him good. But the other thing is, I mean, you're looking at there's other options. So if you're hurting at wide receiver, which I know a lot of people are you can go down the line, look down the line. Even the tight ends, I don't know if they do anything there, but that's sort of that. But moving on.
It's
something
I was
else?
going to say, do you see those pictures of Welker wearing the yellow fedora, sunglasses indoors, and carrying around $100,000 in cash? You try and tell me that's somebody that looks like he's on drugs.
But
you have a picture, Mark? Come on.
at the Derby. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Well, just one more thing about the Broncos. I mean, it's not like the receiving core for Denver were slouches anyway. I mean, if you're worried, you shouldn't be worried about the team just because Wes Welker is going to be out for the first 4 weeks. I mean, they're still going to be fine, and Peyton's still going to be Peyton.
Was slipping last year too.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So, staying on the subject of wide receivers, there's one in Buffalo that has made it back to the practice field after a couple rib injuries this year. Sammy Watkins looks like he's going to get the go. I know he was obviously a big pick in fantasy this year anyway, just because he's pretty much a stud. But that's good to see him be able to get back on the field. I think aside from him getting production, the other thing that does on the other side of the field now, Mike Williams won't have all of the attention on him. The fact that Watkins will be on the field. So I don't know. Anyone want to dive into the Buffalo Bills receiving situation?
I wouldn't deal with any of it. I wouldn't touch it. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Watkins has that Buffalo stink on him now, and you don't want anything. You don't want to be anywhere near that. I like EJ Manuel, but you try and tell me he's any different than Tavares Jackson in his second year in the league.
You like EJ Manuel?
Why do you like him then?
I'm rooting for him as a human being. I hope he does well.
As a human
okay.
being. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Well, if
These aren't human beings. These are football players, Mark, and they're
that's right.
Furthermore, they're
treated
art
as such.
palms. They're art palms to enjoyment. That's all they're used for. So.
Receivers do bust in weird ways, and safe receivers that seem safe at the time always don't end up that way. So I think you can make like a gut judgment. I think Watkins is going to be a bust, and I think Buffalo is going to fall apart entirely. And it's just one of those things, like the pick's hanging over them. They traded their pick next year thinking that they were going to be at least passable, but it's going to backfire, and they're going to lose like the second overall pick. I just know this.
Do you think Stevie Johnson is a better wide receiver than Sammy Watkins?
For this year, probably.
Probably this year.
I'm saying in general, like look at his talent, ability. Do you think that he'll be more successful or less successful?
At his peak? Like Stevie Johnson at his peak? Yes, Stevie Johnson at his peak is better than what Watkins will be.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know.
In my estimate. But it's not scientific. I just think he'll bust because he plays for Buffalo.
It's a tough thing with talented wide receivers on crap teams. I mean, I fell victim to it last year with Cecil Shorts. It's tough. They're talented wide receivers, but what can they do if the quarterback's bad, or the line's bad, or if everything about the team is bad and the coaching's bad? Like, what? It's a shame, and I mean that's kind of how I feel this situation is with Watkins.
Organizations can just get snake bit, and I feel like an authority on this because I watched the Pirates during that 20-year kid, and this is what happens. You think like it's your time, and it's finally to end. And then you overextend yourself a little bit. You don't stay patient and gather assets. You say, oh, need a quarterback. This guy's a third-round talent. Let's take him 15. Now we need a receiver. We're one receiver away from contending. Let's trade 2 draft picks for him. And reach for him in the top 5. It reeks of 07 Pirates.
Did that help? Did that work out for the Atlanta Falcons whenever they made a similar trade to get Julio Jones?
My counter-argument is their franchise is not called the Buffalo Bills.
A black cloud over them.
If EJ Manuel can be marginally better, and I'm talking about like a Ryan Fitzpatrick level good.
They could have just had Ryan Fitzpatrick.
What's that?
They could have just had.
But what I'm saying is that they could be as good as him or not a little bit better, than Sammy Watkins is going to be a beast. So
I think we all just need to accept that there's just no possible way that a team that lost in 3 consecutive Super Bowls will ever rise again. There's just no coming back from it. It's over forever. Sorry, Bills fans.
Listen, we don't need them to win the Super Bowl, though. We just need their players, their pawns, to do good. That's all I'm talking about here. They could go 0-16 or for whatever. As long as Sammy Watkins catches like 2 touchdowns a game, I'll be fine.
What is the last fantasy player that came out of Buffalo that you could rely on to do well?
Ooh,
Like I said,
that's a
Stevie
good question.
Johnson,
That's a
C.J.
really good
Spiller.
And then what happened?
Spiller
And then
is
you
not. Spiller is
Then
not
they-
reliable.
Pull the rug out from under you when you believe and you care the most. Then it's gone.
Because you got burnt. We're not supposed to put our own personal feelings in here, Mark. Just because you got burnt by Spiller doesn't mean that everybody else is going to.
But I've seen this. They're not going to have a winning season for a long time, and they're doing stuff backwards. This is not how you build. You build. It takes forever. It's scorched earth. You believe it's going to get better. It looks like it won't for a while, and then it does. You don't make moves to win when you can't win, and you have no idea what you're doing.
Barring injury, where does Sammy Watkins finish the year at?
You mean like in receivers?
injury. Yeah.
Barring injuries, 700 receiving yards,
That sounds about right.
700 receiving yards.
4 touchdowns.
Okay.
Davon Austin won the top 10, and he's a similar player, and he sucked.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
I'm going to dive into them later, only because of their matchup this week. I think it just, to me, it seems like they're there. They have the pieces to start to be able to. It's just like you said, it's Buffalo. So
Yeah, right. You still have to consider if a team is going to be bad. You've seen like just teams that are falling apart in the locker room and coaching's falling apart, like with Tampa Bay last year, or it's happened in Minnesota when Peterson's there. If they're not playing for anything, like running backs and wide receivers, they don't have the same pop as if they're in playoff contention towards the end of the season.
Peterson's been on a bad team since Favre left, and
calling up Jerry Jones saying, "I'll play for you."
and he went number 3rd or number 2 in the draft this year. I mean, good players put up.
And I disagreed with that.
And but he's established.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Fair enough.
we'll just come to the consensus that it's the Bills and they'll never do well. But
Over under on Bills wins. I'll put it at
4.
That's
I don't care about the wins. You can do good on a bad team.
Wins matter. They do matter. Look at like I said, Tampa Bay.
Antonio Brown last year for the Steelers had a career high year. He was like the 3rd best wide receiver in fantasy football at the end of the year, and the Steelers didn't make the playoffs.
But they're in the hunt.
You were in the hunt for almost all season. That's what.
Okay, but we were so bad that we didn't make the playoffs. But yet,
Do you realize this
our wide
season?
receiver had a career high year.
You were playing to win games because you were still in the hunt. It doesn't matter that you didn't make the playoffs. You were still playing to win games because you were in the hunt the whole time.
Play to win the game.
Yeah, one risk is like, say he gets hurt and they're like 2-10 or something. Why are they going to rush him back? Maybe you just lose games.
That's true.
That's what happened with Peterson too. When he was injured, there was no rush to bring him back because they were so awful.
Plus, you want that pick. You just got to keep tanking.
Yeah,
That's the Buffalo way.
There's tanking in football. But enough Bills though. They're really stinking up.
The hot Bills talk. I love it.
One more injury piece, and then we'll move on. Belichick this week was sort of non-committal on the fact of whether Gronkowski would start or not. That's just something to keep in mind. I know Gronk was saying, "Yeah, I'm ready and I'm going to start," and he's gearing up to go for Week 1. But it's possible. It's probably Belichick playing games with Miami. But it's just know that it's there. Keep an eye out for it. If you have him, I know he should be owned in almost every league. Just keep an eye on that and check Sunday morning. Make sure that he is in the starting lineup and then set your lineup. So, but yeah. So next little segment here we have is just it's going to be a little bit different for Week 1 because we'll look back at the previous week and sort of pick an MVP of the previous week of fantasy football. But we don't have a previous week this week, so we're going to look at the preseason. And I was wondering your guys' picks for preseason MVP.
Preseason.
I got a good one.
Preseason. Go for it.
It kind of flies in the face of the show because it's in no way fantasy relevant, but too bad. You asked the question. Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. Yeah, I mean, he won a starting job. It's a starting quarterback to keep an eye on. A rookie.
I would never touch him at any point during the year, but it's good for him in terms of like pure the MVP performance. He jumped up the depth chart. He's a made man now. At least he gets to start a game. And I'm a fan because I'm a long-time David Carr apologist, and this is almost as good. I got another Carr back in the driver's seat. And we don't have Matt Schaub to laugh at. That's going down.
Well, I cheated with mine because the NFL.com actually named a preseason MVP, so I'm going to steal it from them. So Corey Washington is, and just watching the games and seeing how it went, I got to sort of second their opinion. He made the 53-man roster of the Giants because of his preseason. He was sort of a fringe guy no one really looked at, and he's on a team where they didn't really have much wide receiver depth anyway, so his chances were all right, but he sort of needed one of those spectacular preseasons to be able to make the roster, and he did. He caught touchdown passes in 4 straight games, had racked up some like 10 catches for 150-some yards, and 3 of those touchdowns that he caught were game winners. So he sort of grabbed the attention of everyone. He probably, for the regular season, isn't going to be a regular in the lineup. I mean, he'll be suited up and everything, but he's probably going to be like this 5th or 6th receiver. So you probably won't see him much on the field unless someone goes down. But the thing to like about him, he's a big guy. He's like 6'4" and 200 and some pounds. So he could be a big threat in terms of an end zone target. So maybe later in the season, you don't know what kind of injuries the Giants are going to rack up. They always do. He could get some time and be a good red zone threat for you. Just someone to keep in the back of your mind later down the line.
It's not out of the ordinary. That's exactly how Victor Cruz got in the big preseason. He had to do it 2 years in a row, but it ended up working out.
I hate giving props to the Giants, but I mean he's clearly someone that stood out. You other two have preseason MVPs?
I wasn't going to dignify with a response because it's the preseason. The preseason that we're talking about here, but I did read about he's wide receiver for Detroit. His name was Ryan Broyle. He had a couple standout games with a few touchdowns. He was able to make the roster. Unfortunately, depth in Detroit's pretty substantial, so he's not going to get very much playing time. But it's a name to kind of watch on.
I would go with Brandon Cooks. He's a rookie wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. You can't go wrong with many wide receivers for the Saints, with Drew Brees gunslinging back there. And he's a rookie, so a lot of people sleep on him. But look out for him.
All right, cool. So, switching it up a little bit from the rundown I sent you guys, but moving into the MVP of the upcoming week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little rough.
I'll nominate one.
Okay.
The fans.
The fans. It will be. It's such an exciting time of the year, isn't it?
That's the best.
It's great. I don't really have an MVP for this week. I kind of have guys that I was looking at that I like a little bit more than I think other people, or matchups to stay away. But I think that's a segment later on. So hold everything till then.
I'd like to. I nominate every player on my team. Because why?
I have a real one.
You have a real one? Go for it.
And I want to say it before you, because you're going to say it, and I just want to steal it. Nick Foles.
How'd you know?
He's got the sweet matchup.
Yeah.
Had the whole offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you draft him, Rob?
No, I didn't. I was going to hold off. The thing is, I got backed into a position where I was 9th in our draft, and I didn't want to draft a quarterback first, even though all last year, at the end of the year, and starting with our show, I was talking about how quarterbacks are high. I didn't want to. I got backed into having to draft Peyton.
Backed into
having to draft Peyton. I know. I wanted a running back. I hated where I was in the draft, and I had to do it, so I did it. I mean, sitting ninth in the draft if Peyton's sitting there. Ugh. It was like such a horrible good position. But no, I would have waited in calls, but yeah, he's my MVP going into this week. Only because it's Jacksonville. They're going to Philly, and they were terrible against the pass last year. They're still terrible against the pass, and they're still Jacksonville. I think he's primed to have a good week. I think the entire Philly offense is primed to have a good week. So,
I feel bad. I feel bad for Jacksonville because I think they're better this year, but going up against the Eagles in Week 1 in Philly is tough.
It's a tough start to it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's so funny that was your breakout or MVP, because that was going to be my bold prediction. I was going to say, oh, Nick Foles, top 3 quarterback this week. Watch out. I started doing a little research. ESPN had him, I think, number 4. I was like, oh, okay, that's not going to work for bold predictions.
Plus, it's going to be a tough season for Foles because there's no possible way that he's going to be able to match his personal success.
No,
because he only threw 2 picks.
Once he hits 3 picks, everyone's going, bring in Sanchez. Bring in Sanchez.
The bar is too high. Yeah.
But I got to tell you though, just looking at him this preseason, he showed the ability to make good decisions. So whether he throws more, he's going to throw interceptions. You just got to accept that fact. But he's able to run the system. He's not an agile quarterback by any means, but he's able to successfully run Chip Kelly's offense. And that's all that matters. So.
Yep.
Do you think it's a down? Do you think Chip Kelly can repeat the numbers last year? This year, are you expecting more or less about the same?
Team numbers or quarterback numbers?
I'm talking about your total offense for the Eagles.
Well, if you look at my bold predictions, I put up a post the other day, 5 bold predictions for this year. I had them, setting the record for offensive output. So I didn't.
Oh man.
Laugh, Mark. I think they can do it. They were over 6,000 last year. The record is like 74 set by the Saints. That was the year that Breeze went 5,000 some yards and set the record there. But I don't think by any means Foles is going to set some sort of passing yards record. But if they get they pick up chunks of yards, they pick up lots of yards. I expect more out of them this year. He's a smart guy, and not to keep rambling, but Kelly's a smart guy, and he knows he's a football guy. His IQ is out through the roof. He knows people are going to adjust to what he did last year, and he's smart enough where he can adjust his system enough to keep everyone off balance. So I expect his playbook to just not completely open up, but just develop into something else this year.
Right. There has to be improvement there because, last year was his first. So it has to just grow from that. There's always going to be growing pains with any new coach with a team. Plus, the ingredients are there for Rob's prediction to be right. You've got Shady McCoy as the first back. You've got Sproles as the second. You've got a talented young QB, and then just the Chip Kelly offense, which is ridiculously fast-paced. So the ingredients are there. It's possible.
You have an off-season worth of film study and breaking down and everything that people will learn his system and what he does. So, Bob says that he's smart and he can adapt, but I almost wonder if it was like, okay, he comes into the league, he brings this fresh, high-tempo, high-pace. Does that continue to last, or do teams adjust? They always say it takes the defense like about a season or two to adjust to trends that are in the NFL, and then the offense shifts from there. So.
Right. Well, he also had the offseason to build off of that initial platform because he knows his talent, and he's been with the team now for a full year, so he knows strengths and weaknesses.
Think of it.
So he can grow too.
Think of this as sort of his time in college. He's coming into a team. It's his first year. He just graduated some guys. He's bringing in. Give him a couple years to get his offense completely. The guy he wants in there. To sort of build the team and mold it the way he wants. So it's getting there, I think. This is not a complete offense.
Is Foles his guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
for now, yeah. Unless some like perfect QB, I don't see him drafting Marcus Mariota anytime soon, whenever he comes out. But for now, Foles has shown the ability to run the offense. It is enough.
I think it's a big either-or situation. Either you're right and it is like that, or everything broke their way last year. Foles had like a career year, and that kind of stuff. I'm not really
2 interceptions.
Yeah, that kind of lends itself to maybe. I don't want to say like fluky or anything like that. But if you were to argue the other side of it, there's a chance that maybe that's the best they'll ever look.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 interceptions he had.
Yeah, so obviously it's going to be the best.
So if he has more interceptions this year, then the production goes down. You know what I mean? That's
right.
Yeah, but come on, you're really going to hold him to throwing just 2 picks this year?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
He didn't play all the games.
Right. So it's jury's out.
It's going to be interesting.
For you, Seth.
I'm pulling for the Eagles. Ask Max. I gave up on the Steelers. The Steelers are dead to me. I'll watch their games, but Eagles are the new hotness.
Whoa.
I'm all about them.
Before you could dig yourself into a hole that you can't get out of with people, how about we cut it there?
Okay.
Moving on. So we're sort of through the predictions or looking at what's coming up, but in terms of individuals, what matchups this week are you guys looking forward to? Whether be it a team or an offense versus defense. This week in football, what do you think is going to be the most exciting to watch?
Like you're talking close game.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, I like. The Thursday game's awesome.
Yeah.
Packers in Seattle. That's an awesome game. I like Atlanta versus New Orleans. I think that's going to be a really good game.
Well, who do you like?
Probably New Orleans. But I think it's going to be a good game.
Players-wise, like fantasy information.
Oh, we're talking players? I thought we were talking close games.
No, whatever you're looking forward to, whether it's an individual versus another individual, offense versus defense, or team versus team.
Okay, well, I think that Seattle's defense, don't start them. If you have Seattle's defense, you're not going to want to start them. Big game. I think they're coming off like an untouchable performance in the Super Bowl. So everyone's like, "Oh, Seattle's defense, here it is. They're going to be the Legion of Boom." I think Green Bay is going to go in there and put up like 40 points on them.
Oh my goodness! Wait a minute. This is in Seattle. Offenses don't do that in that stadium.
It's a big game. I think Aaron Rodgers' comeback has something to prove. I think that Jordy Nelson's going to have a really good game, and I think Eddie Lacy is going to have a terrible game. That's the only thing. I think they're going to shut down their run game completely, but it doesn't matter because they're going to drop like 40 on them.
That stadium is going to be the loudest it's ever been for that opening game. That offense isn't going to be able to do anything. It's going to be outrageous.
40 points, Max. You heard it. 40 points. I don't like that matchup. I think there's going to be some sort of Super Bowl hangover. I think everybody thinks that like this defense is damn near impenetrable, but it's not. They had an amazing game, a Super Bowl, to shut down Peyton Manning completely.
I think you're half right.
There's always a Super Bowl hangover. That's true, but there's not going to be a Super Bowl hangover for the Legion of Boom when they fill those seats. It's going to be crazy, and that offense isn't going to be able to work.
Legion of Boo.
Oh, too funny.
But it's going to happen on the offensive side, I think. The defense is probably a little safer, but I think the offense regresses, and that puts more pressure on the defense, and that's why they give up more points. I think if Wilson drinks a little too much of his own Kool-Aid and Lynch falls apart like everyone thinks, then that offense is super ordinary.
I think the Packers throw up less than 20.
Yeah, I see it being a defensive struggle.
I say 4 touchdowns.
Or offensive struggle if you want to.
Hey, I gave these people fantasy information. Bench Seattle's defense.
We'll see. We'll see next week. Actually, we'll see tomorrow. I can't wait.
don't like Ed Lacy in this matchup. That's what I'm going with. That's my fantasy. I broke it down, guys.
That ought to be a bold prediction.
That's not a bold prediction. Wait till you see my bold prediction. That's like a tiny prediction. That's like a meek prediction right there.
Well, this might be considered bold. The one I'm sort of looking forward to, and it goes back to, not to rehash some Buffalo Bills crap, but the Buffalo offense against the Bears defense. Now, the Bears defense is not your father's Bears defense where they were dominant and you couldn't do anything against them. There's no Urlacher anymore. I mean, they're rough. It's a rough go on that side of the ball for them.
Their defense sucks.
It's plain and simple. I could have saved a few seconds there by saying just their defense sucks. The Bills, again, the jury, like we're saying, is out on them, and you don't want to touch them or anything like that. But if there's a defense that they have a shot of doing something against and proving, that Sammy Watkins can help turn the team around, or that E.J. Manuel is their quarterback, then I think that's the defense to do it against. So I don't know that it's necessarily in anyone's favor there, because both are sort of weak points for the teams. But I'm intrigued to see how it goes.
I am, but for the other reason. You top the other side of the ball. Chicago's offense is probably the best offense in the NFL, in my opinion. And I'm insanely excited to see it. And especially for fantasy. In terms of fantasy, it is just unbelievable to watch.
I'll give you the receiving core. I don't know about the offense as a whole.
I like it.
I'm still not sold on Cutler.
I like Cutler.
He's got a good chance. I saw what that offense did to McCown.
Yeah, I don't know how he can't be good. He has Forte, Jeffries, and Marshall. This guy should be putting up record numbers every single week. Just throw the ball up. Just in the air.
And he will.
One of those three will get it.
And he will if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. That's a big thing.
So, Rob, you're really going to give us a sit-and-wait approach. You're not going to make any you just want to watch the game. That's all. You're not going to say, "Oh yeah, the Bills are going to come out and
I think the Bills are going to surprise. I think the Bills are going to surprise people. I don't think they win the game, but I think they'll surprise people.
All right, thank you.
So there's that. Other matchups. Max mentioned it. The Saints and Falcons.
Yeah.
That is. I mean, it's a chance for the Falcons to really turn things around after a 4-12 campaign, and he just decimated by injuries. I think I'm excited to see it. I think they do turn it around. I know they still got some turns on the other side of the ball, but that offense, I'm just excited to see them healthy, and what they can do. I know the Saints defense was much better, much improved last year. The NFC South is really picking it up if they can all the teams can be healthy. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, because now I get a chance to do a little bit of something I like to call the Schadenfreude Roundup. Just point out every team that is due for regression, and this is a good time to get a first good look at them. And first on the stop is Carolina, which is one of the most obvious regression candidates, and it's easy to determine because they've never seen core. Cam Newton's hurt. Tampa is a big rebound candidate because their wins above Raheem gone to the roof. And no more Shianum.
Oh, that is a podcast favorite.
I know. I hope he cried when he got fired.
That would be fitting. I think the Chiefs are another big regression team.
I got one more.
That's going to be a good one to watch. Because the other thing about that matchup, Tennessee, a lot of people are giving them love. They think there's going to be like a surprise team this year. Which I don't know if that makes them much of a surprise if everyone thinks they're going to be a surprise. But
I like them. Yeah.
Kansas City is a big question mark for me. I mean, they started 9-0 last year. You look at their last 7 games; they were 2-5. They went backed into the playoffs, had a 28-point lead against Indy and blew it. how do you recover from that?
I
So
think they're a good team. They're good defense and a good offense with a good head coach. Like, I mean, we're not talking about
let's talk about the head coach. I'm not even going to go into the head coach.
we're not talking about a
We'll
guy
turn on Kelly too. Give it time.
at his second year in the league. Yeah, we're not talking about a coach who's second year in the league who brought a flashy new offense. We're talking about an established coach who was a nice proven track record. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
proven Joker.
Oh, come on.
I know. I'm being harsh.
I got one more that I really believe in, but it doesn't get talked about a ton. It's been mentioned a little bit, but San Francisco, I think, is gonna fall apart.
I keep seeing that.
I think they finished 6-10.
No.
Wow.
I can't. I refuse to believe this. I think they're still a really good team.
You can see where I'm coming from, though. All these distractions, first of all. It just seems like the schedule's tough, the division's tough. They've been good for a while.
It's time.
I'm not feeling it.
And I will say I don't like Kaepernick. I think ESPN has him as their like third highest ranked quarterback projected this week.
For fantasy?
Yeah, for fantasy. If you have him, I know Dallas is just terrible. They lost their two best defensive players, Marcus Ware and I can't remember who else, but Sean Lee's injured now. So there's nothing that necessarily screams Dallas defense is going to be good. It's just my lack of faith in Kaepernick, and they're at home. I think they're playing at Dallas, so I got a weird feeling about it.
I see what you're saying about San Fran, but this week I think it's a safe bet because I think Dallas has the worst defense in all of football. I'm serious. I think it's awful.
We'll see. I have one more addendum to that San Fran pick, and it's this theory, and it goes like this. San Francisco has a fiery head coach. Fiery head coaches don't finish 8-8. Fiery head coaches work when everything's going well, but when things aren't going well, all of a sudden the guy that's screaming in your face and pacing and wincing and like throwing his headphones, he doesn't seem very charming, and you tend to tune those kind of guys out.
Yeah.
So
Fair.
if they're not good, I don't think they're going to scrape in the playoffs. I think they're going to be bad.
As soon as you said fiery head coach, I can't help it. I just thought, like Ray in Ghostbusters, it just popped in there. Shiano.
Yep, same here. Shiano man.
Like that, it's charming. Like, oh, Shiano man plays tough. Shiano man hits them when they're down, but when you're like 1-10, you're not that interested in doing it.
It reminds me of like a college or even like high school or pee-wee level like coach, like unprofessional coaching. That's what it reminds me of.
Hey, Max,
Give me an Andy Reid guy who shows no emotion.
Max, let's use our sway from this telecast or webcast and all of our Twitter combine this to get Washington Redskins to change their name to the Washington Shiano Men.
The Washington Shiano Men. Yeah. I'm actually not going to refer to them as the Redskins on this podcast.
That's two. Well, you did it.
That's 3.
They're the Washington football team.
I like it. I'm a fan. This podcast just went from I don't know what it is to a 5-star show like that. So
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I want to flip the script on the last question. Then just matchups really quickly. Matchups to avoid this week. Again, team, individual, offense, defense. What are you looking at? What do you think are the tough ones that don't bode well in terms of fantasy?
Jaguars.
Jaguars.
Yeah, that'll give you plenty of fantasy. Steelers, Browns, right off the top of my head, looks pretty ugly.
This is kind of I don't want to call it a bold prediction, but I don't like Brady down in Miami.
They suck at home though. Don't get fooled.
Miami's
terrible at home.
Last year they beat New England.
Probably on the road.
Just one game and whatnot, but they've been struggling on the road of late, and I don't know. I still think that other than Edelman, if he can stay healthy, I don't know. I don't like his receivers. I don't like what's around him. I know it's another case of like Brady and Manning. If you put anything out there, they can turn it into gold. But I don't know. I'm just it's hard to find the words to describe it because I just don't think that there's enough there. And actually, I'll get it. I'm gonna save it. I'll hold on to it for a bold prediction. But I just don't like Brady and New England down in Miami for this week.
I got a good one, and it's a conditional pick. That New York Giants Detroit Lions game. I know Gilbride's gone to New York and they have a new offense, and I'm actually optimistic that article I read, I think it was on Grantland, kind of compared it to what Philip Rivers did last year when they put in like an offense that actually fit like his skill set and his personnel, like more like a West Coast type thing. They're gonna have that in New York now, and if it works, great. But if it doesn't work, that offense is going to be a piece of trash. And they're going against Detroit, which is coached by Jim Caldwell, which is one of probably the worst offensive minds I've ever
seen.
Oh, I like Caldwell.
So you get Caldwell against like a disjointed Giants offense. That sounds like bad. I'll watch it the whole game, but I won't be happy.
How about the other two? Any matchups to avoid?
I said the Jaguars.
That's right.
You shouldn't have been starting any Jaguars to begin with.
Yeah,
It's a great game for the Jaguars. They'll be playing from behind.
yeah. I'm starting to see socials, so Max, I don't care what you say.
Okay.
All right. Well,
I started them all last season and ended up in 10th place.
well, let's go then to bold predictions for this week, for the season, since it's technically our first show. Feel free to throw it out there. What do you got?
Why don't you get us started?
All right. Well, I'm going to draw my post. I was so eager to talk about it, but I don't think the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. I think they're going to get.
This is for the season?
What's that?
Is this for the season or just for the week?
This was for the season. This is what I was going to say, and I decided to save it. I don't think the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. I don't know who. I'm tossing a coin right now between. What's that?
You got to pick somebody.
I know. I'm tossing a coin between the Dolphins and the Jets to unseat them, and I know that's crazy. That's crazy.
That's a bold prediction, all right.
I know that's crazy. Hear me out though. I gave it to the Jets only because I think Geno is on the cusp, and adding someone like Decker is good news for him. You know, it gives him a nice target to throw to, and they have a capable backup in case things go really haywire. I don't know if they have a backup to the backup, because the backup will break in half at some point. The only concern really, and this is not normally the concern with the Jets, is their defense and their corners, and they don't have good corner play. Max, your face is killing me, but I know it's weird, but if they just get things right, I feel like they could click and potentially steal a win or two here or there. And everyone's thinking they're an 8-8 team. If they end up 9-7 and the Patriots end up, it's crazy to think that they'd be 8-8, but I just don't like their team. I don't.
The Patriots were a bad group of players last year, and they've only gotten better. I think this is going to be the easiest season at least in their division that they've had in a long time.
It looks like it, and that's what scares me. It looks like an easy season, and that scares me.
I mean, I know that there's like parity in the league, and there's a lot of turnover and stuff. But the Patriots, you got to remember, they were in the AFC Championship last year. It's not like they just limped into the playoffs or they got beat by after a 20-point lead. Like, all that's on fine, but the Patriots are like the model of consistency. So
I know. That's why it's bold.
Remember their receiving core at the beginning of last season? Like, Dobson. Who are these guys?
Yeah, Tompkins and
they're all still there.
I know.
All right. Well, I didn't go. I'm not looking that far in advance. I just went with the bold prediction this week, which it's not really bold if you watched any of my love for him last season. But Alshon Jeffries, I think he's gonna have a monster game. I think he's a top 5 wide receiver this week. I think ESPN has him right around 16. So if you got Alshon Jeffries, feel pretty good about this week going into it. So.
Well, you already heard my biggest one, San Francisco going 6-10, but that doesn't stop me from making other crazy predictions, and here they come. Houston will make the playoff. I I know that's kind of a trendy thing. I know. Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm. Houston will be 6th seed in the AFC.
Okay.
And that's not all. Denver will not win the AFC West. San Diego will take it home.
Oh.
Plus a first round bye.
I like that.
All right.
As far as I have some fantasy predictions, I think Randall Cobb at the end of this season is a top 3 receiver. And I think I'm not going to go top 3. I'll go top 5. I think Giovanni Bernard for Cincy is going to have a really good year.
That's fair.
Bold.
I like him this week, man. I like him this week.
How about this one? Let me tone it down to just the week, I guess. I look back at my matchups here. I don't know. There's some really good matchups this week, and I don't know.
Oh, that's prepared.
I know.
I at least pretend that you're researching.
At a loss. No, I got it. Bernard Pierce, 3 touchdowns for Baltimore.
This week?
This week. He's getting the start. Ray Rice is out. There's a name that shouldn't be spoken on this show. So I think Bernard Pierce, in place of that and getting his chance to finally start, goes off for 3 scores.
All right, we'll just keep it going. Keenan Allen will be the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy overall for the year.
Hey, that's good news for me. I have him in one league.
And for no reason other than I picked San Diego to do well, and I should double down with another bold prediction.
I have him in both leagues, actually.
I have him a lot, too. I like Keenan Allen.
All right.
Cool. In other news, my fantasy team will win every league it's in.
I'm not too confident in mine, but we'll see how things go. So, but
Jacksonville will finish 10-6 and somehow miss the playoff on a tiebreaker.
Fair. 12-4 for your Steelers. Is that still holding true?
9-7, winning the AFC North, getting demolished in the first round.
Okay, fair enough.
12-4.
It is a bad division, but I think Cincy pretty much locks that up fairly early.
I don't think they're good either. None of those teams are good.
That's a fun note to end on, I guess. So Mark having no confidence in the Steelers and Seth going on the record saying that he is jumping ship on the Steelers in one show. So we have that on video. So.
I have Philly at 6-10.
Okay. That's a terrible note to end on. So I won't touch that. So we'll talk about it next week. Enjoy your fantasy weeks and thanks for joining us and see you next week.